Guess who? Me again. So this is another video around parenting. And I want you all to understand as parents that your children will not appreciate you until they're about 35 years old. Now, why do I say that? Well, because you think back when you were your kid's age. How much grace did you have? I would imagine, if you're honest with yourself, not much, okay? It takes a human being a number of years being out on their own, having to pay for everything, having to work for a living, before they really begin to appreciate the position their parents were in when they were coming up in the world, okay? So just remember, around 35 years old, a human being has lived long enough by then to begin to appreciate their parents' struggles. Does that make sense? Let me see if there's one other thing I can add to that. Yes, about grace. Back to grace. You know, the interesting thing about when your children grow up and become adults and get out into the world and work hard and have to pay for all their own bills and possibly support families, have children, get married, have children, all of that, right? They get to a point where they can actually see their parents as people, as human beings first, before they became those titles of parents, mom and dad, mom and mom, dad and dad. So when they have that kind of grace and they can give it to you, a real interesting thing happens. We then, as parents, are allowed to become human. We are allowed to tell our children what our struggles were and what maybe we didn't necessarily get right. I'll never forget, and this is a personal story, when I kind of got pretty, around like 15, 16 years old, it's like I all of a sudden went from geek, braces, glasses, stringy hair, to I had a hairstyle, I wore makeup, I got contact lenses, and all of a sudden, people started noticing me. And I didn't know what to do with that. And I went to my mom through the years, and I remember a particular conversation I had with my mom when I took her out for Mother's Day when I was 26. And a gentleman in a suit, three-piece suit, came up to our table and asked me for my phone number. Thought I was, I don't know, whatever, beautiful or whatever, as I walked across the restaurant when we were being seated. And when he walked away, I looked at my mom and I went, see? This happens to me all the time. And my mother never said a word. Years later, when I was in my 40s, my mother finally fessed up and told me that people had reacted to her that way too when she was younger. And I said to her, Mom, why didn't you tell me that? It would have been so great to have had your wisdom, to have heard your experiences with this. It would have normalized my experiences. And her answer was, well, I didn't want you to get a big head. Now, I get that. But that's humility, and that's another video. Okay? So I hope you come away with this realizing that, one, your children aren't going to have grace about you until they're about 35 and they've lived enough life. And by the way, if you get them any sooner to have grace for you, sooner than 35, then you're ahead of the game. But once they have grace for you and they understand that you're human too, you get an opportunity to be human. And if you get an opportunity to do that sooner rather than later, for gosh sakes, please do. Okay? Enough said on this one. Bye now.